Visa responds to censoring Steam games. This whole situation with the censorship of Steam games, as well as, you know, the whole deal in Europe of censorship, it's batshit crazy. It's insane. Things are gonna get much worse in the coming weeks. I can already tell. But I want to see what they're saying here about this. Let's make it bigger. But alright, Visa responds to censoring Steam games. Let's go.
Imagine trying to buy a game on Steam, only to find out it's vanished. Not because it's illegal, but because Visa and MasterCard decided you can't buy it.
Yeah, and there's a big line to draw there. It is not up to them what people can and cannot buy. You know, to a certain extent. I mean, you're violating a lot of freedoms there, because the things that people are purchasing with these transactions are not exactly illegal. In fact, they're not illegal at all. But I'm sure that they let a lot worse stuff slide in the background. They just don't want anybody to know about it. Why is it that they can tell Steam to do that? Because they're like a massive profit point of people doing purchase transactions. Because you have to have a license / approval from different payment methods to utilize that payment method on your site or program or whatever. So that's what they did. They basically threatened Steam to say, you won't be able to use me or have me to make money if you continue to have these games here, which is a load of crap. It's a violation of freedom.
The last few weeks, tens of thousands of games have been removed from both Steam and itch.io, and it's all due to pressure from payment processors. This isn't just about a few controversial titles, it's affecting everything from small indie projects to mature but otherwise legal games. It's a new reality where gamers no longer get to decide what they can buy. But gamers aren't just sitting back. There are reports of a mass campaign, Operation Fighting Fire with Fire. Their goal? To bombard MasterCard and Visa with calls.
Oh yeah, Collective Shout is the movement that made Visa start doing this. Incredibly malicious, and it helps no one. You are only... Literally. Yeah, no, Sully, you're right. The show Cuties is still available! But no, porn's bad. What a fucking joke. This is the kind of crap that should not be allowed. So normal ass, corn is fine to get banned and stuff, but yet predatory child stuff is fine? They say they're doing a lot of this stuff to protect children, and yet that show being around still is enough proof to show it's a giant hypocrisy. It's just trying to push a message against everybody else. Ridiculous.
And emails, mirroring the tactics used by groups like Collective Shout, who initially targeted Steam.
Fuck them.
Collective Shout claimed victory with around 1,000 emails, and gamers believe they can collectively shout much, much louder.
Yeah, they can. See, I have no qualms against banning predatory games that depict kids and, rape and all that in a positive light. Yeah, get rid of that shit. Get rid of that shit. It doesn't belong. But it's more than that. It's everything else not related to it. That's the problem. They're using that as a front for their agenda. And it's wrong. If you're gonna do good, do good. Don't overreach yourself and hurt people that have nothing to do with it.
Simply letting MasterCard and Visa know, hey, these games we want to buy are legal. Let us spend our money. So, as gamers express their frustration, Visa has responded to multiple emails with what appears to be a copy-paste response. I've seen multiple different emails, but they all had the exact same reply, so let's see what Visa has to say about the situation. Thank you for reaching out and sharing your perspective. As a global company, we follow the laws and regulations everywhere we do business.
No, you don't. Don't lie. That's cap. A lot of the stuff that you are requiring to be banned off of Steam is legal. So no, you're circumventing the law because people are whining to you.
This sounds fair. Visa says they follow the law. Obviously, if something is illegal, that is its own situation.
If it's
and I would
actually
agree that it
illegal,
should be
yes.
banned from Steam. But these
But
games
most
we
of
are
them
talking
aren't.
about are legal, which is the problem.
Exactly.
While we explicitly prohibit illegal activity on our network, we are equally committed to protecting legal commerce. If a transaction is legal, our policy is to process the transaction.
Yeah, but you're not allowing people to do that. You're not allowing people to do that. You are banning games that have nothing to do with what's illegal. Just maybe slightly controversial. This copy-paste crap, no, it's all full of shit.
We do not make moral judgments on legal purchases.
Bullshit, you don't make moral judgments on legal purchases. You're doing it right now. You are allowing moral judgment to be passed through you, through other groups, to affect these purchases. This is all a lie.
Made by consumers. This is a very strong statement. Visa claims they don't judge what people buy if it's legal, and if a purchase is legal, they process it. This sounds great. This is what you would assume a payment processor would do. But if you have been paying attention at all to the situation, you would know this is simply not true. From games to crypto, guns, anime, porn, even energy companies, and so much more. But back to Visa's statement. If they don't make moral judgments, what does that even mean? It means they claim they don't care if content is adult, violent, or controversial as long as it's legal. They say their job isn't to decide what's right or wrong morally, but just to make sure money moves for legal products. So they are saying one thing, but then doing the exact opposite. Visa continues in the email. Visa does not moderate content sold by merchants, nor do we have visibility into the specific goods or services sold when we process a transaction. This claim is also very clear. Visa says they don't look at the content being sold. Visa and MasterCard are intertwined in so many businesses around the world, you can't actually expect them to go through every single one to review and moderate everything. Visa also says they don't see what's being sold when money moves.
This whole statement is cap. They see every transaction you have, unless it's in a specific method to where you give a certain someone $100 over PayPal through your Visa for something completely unrelated to the digital transaction. No, they cannot see what was purchased or what the transaction was for. But when it comes to digital goods like Steam and like even eBay purchases, or something where there is a digital record of the item or service alongside the transaction, aka digital receipts, they do know. They do know. Every single one of those. So, that's cap.
So if they don't see the content, how do they know if something is quote-unquote risky? Well, they rely on reports from banks themselves, complaints from the public, or even activist groups to flag a merchant as risky. So Visa won't look at every...
That's your first mistake, allowing activists into that circle. People complaining is one thing, because people do need to complain about certain merchants and products. But activists? No, because most of them, if they're going to that length, are very misguided.
Single game. But if a platform like Steam has a lot of content that's getting complaints, Visa can view the entire platform as a risk, which is how Collective Shout were able to get Visa and MasterCard to listen to them.
So basically, they lied a lot to get Visa's attention. While there are bad actors on Steam, don't get me wrong, they get through sometimes, even though they're usually pretty good about it. So they're collectively lying about the majority of these games that are being sold under different pretenses to add to their agenda of holding Steam hostage to get what they want. No. No.
By painting Steam and itch.io as this very bad place, asking them to demonstrate corporate social responsibility and immediately cease processing payments. But Visa continues in their email. When a legally operating merchant faces an elevated risk of illegal activity, we require enhanced safeguards for the bank supporting those merchants. The last part is key. Visa says if a store has a high risk of illegal activity, they make the banks working with that store take extra steps to be safe. But notice they don't say the content is illegal, just that there's a risk of it. Visa claims that they do not make moral judgments on legal purchases and do not moderate content. But let's compare that to what Valve and itch.io actually said about the recent changes. In classic Valve fashion, they were quiet on the issue, with the only official information we have from them is the new rule change and an official worded response they gave out to multiple different journalists. In their response, Valve hinted heavily that payment processors were threatening to cut them off. They stated they had to retire certain games because losing payment methods would prevent customers from buying any titles on Steam. This made it clear that Steam was now at the mercy of these payment processors despite Valve's usual hands-off approach to legal content. itch.io was even more direct. They flat out stated they changed their rules because payment companies threatened to block all payments on their platform.
Yup, that alludes to what I was saying before, how they were basically being threatened with losing any and all income and the ability for people to purchase from there if they didn't abide by what that was. Collective Shout is a terrorist organization, basically. You know, for the 1% they're trying to do right, the other 99% is just flat out terrorism. Essentially.
So if Visa isn't making moral judgments or moderating content, why were these threats happening over legal material? Is Visa implying Steam and itch.io are lying? Well, the answer is in one vague word: risk. Visa states they require enhanced safeguards when there is an elevated risk of illegal activity. But risk is a broad term. Often, it's not actually about illegal content, but about anything that might generate bad press or public protests. This gives power.
And yet they'll continue to let news outlets operate and use their stuff, and also theme parks, and there's always risks with those, but you don't see anything like that happening. Like, why are they picking and choosing? There's a lot of different storefronts and places and operations that would always pose a risk, but they're never under the same guideline. I don't like how they're letting a terrorist group, like Collective Shout, tell them what to do. OnlyFans? That's a bit, yeah, I don't know. That's a bit of a different story, I think.
Power to groups like Collective Shout. They sent numerous emails, made phone calls, and ran public campaigns painting Steam and itch.io as risky places, urging these payment processors to cease
Your group
business,
is a risky
which obviously
place.
led into them then pressuring Valve. These payment processors hold all this power because almost everyone uses their cards. So when they label a platform as risky, which often just means enough people complained, they can directly threaten that platform with losing access to their entire payment network. This also isn't just about Steam and itch.io either. We've seen similar problems in Japan where businesses selling certain types of legal adult content have lost payment options from companies like Visa, often under the same risk umbrella. Even Visa's CEO in Japan has been vocally against adult content. This shows a clear pattern. Payment processors, despite their claims, directly influence what can be sold. If they decide a business is risky, even for legal content, they can effectively shut down that business's ability to operate. So this email from Visa is a clear example of a big company saying one thing, while their actions and the statements of the platforms they work with show something completely different.
I mean, that's possible that they're using them as the front for all of this censorship, but it's going to come to bite them in the ass. People don't want to be censored for perfectly legal and normal things, using their money that they earned. They do not get to tell us how to spend our money. Plain and simple. That's just not how it works. Because I'm gonna tell you one thing. If a card company started telling me how to spend my money, I would immediately cut their card and kick them to the curb. And I will go cash only. Because it's not their money. If it is 100% legal, I will buy whatever the fuck I want. It is not their job to say so. Absolutely not. Obviously, they have a legal obligation to try to stop illegal activities being transactioned through their medium. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. They're overstepping their bounds here. By, under the pretense of stopping illegal things, they're creating more illegal things and hurting those following the rules. Well, who is this benefiting? You're not stopping any bad actors. You're hurting the ones abiding by your rules in the first place. Like, do you think you're accomplishing anything with this? Like, literally. And by controlling people's purchases, do you really think people are going to sit back and just let you do that? No, they're not going to. They have different choices. There's more than just Visa cards. There's more digital transactions that you can use. You don't need them. They are replaceable. They're far more replaceable than you think they are. And even if, for whatever reason, I'm kind of going off tangent here, but, and even if all the card holders decided to do this, you would see a massive revolt and a reversion back to cash society. Because, and guess where most of the illegal activity takes place? Under cash societies.
Now, it's also important to remember, as this video did have a focus on Visa, there are other payment processors involved as well. There are some reports from people calling MasterCard that issues have escalated to a higher department, as they have been getting calls about this all week. Whether MasterCard's higher department actually does something is a different question that we will just have to wait to see. While the exact behind-the-scene details of what happened between payment processors and Steam are unknown, one thing is clear. Visa claims of no moral judgments don't match reality. They use vague terms like risk
they're full of
to
shit.
deflect responsibility.
They're straight up lying under a professional pretense.
Is bought and sold. This situation makes one thing very clear. Payment companies like Visa and MasterCard have huge unchecked power. They shouldn't be allowed to dictate what legal content can be bought or sold online simply by labeling it risky. Because what really is risky? This unchecked power must be challenged. Payment processors, with their monopoly on transactions, operate as essential services, like electricity or water. They should be forced to provide fair access to all legal purchases. This is something hopefully we see happen in the future. That's why collective action is so important. From calling and emailing Visa and MasterCard directly to supporting policies like the Fair Access to Banking Act, gamers are making their voices heard. They're now telling elected officials that these powerful companies are overstepping by blocking legal purchases.
Yes, they are.
Already, with over 100,000 signatures, and I'm sure it will only grow as gamers start to realize how bad this problem really is. So, what do you think about Visa's email? Do you think Steam and itch.io removed tens of thousands of games just because they wanted to, and then blamed it on payment processors for no reason? One thing is clear. Gamers aren't accepting this response, and they want payment processors to stop deciding what content can be sold. Imagine...
Yeah, no. It's not Steam doing it, because do you know how old Steam is now? Like, it is ancient, and a lot of these games that they removed have been on the platform for a long time. At the very least, they've been around for months, if not years. If they wanted to remove those games because they listed them as problematic, they would have just done it. It's Steam. They've always done that. No, it's the outside pushing force from these payment processors. Overstepping their bounds into telling people what they can't buy legally. Well, every game that goes on Steam is screened. Every game that you list on Steam is screened for a period of time before it is even listed. It makes you wonder how some questionable games get on there, but they have a guideline that they have to follow to even allow games on the platform. But yeah, they're overstepping their bounds severely by trying to tell people what they can buy and not buy when everything in that sphere is legal. So you're telling me that I can't buy a bottle of booze because there's a risk with it? Yeah, no shit. There's a risk with so many other things that they don't need to gatekeep. Power tools, alcohol, vehicles, even electronic equipment. Everything has an inherent risk. Where do you draw the line? And of course, I know one of their arguments is protecting the children, and it's like, well, how about y'all be better parents and watch what your kids are fucking playing? Does that make sense? How about you don't let your kids buy rated M games? Pretty damn simple if you ask me. Don't put it on the game companies. Don't put it on the sites that host these games. Do your damn job as a parent. We're forsaking so much responsibility to the people that aren't responsible for these things and not relegating the responsibility to the people that need to be. Whether it's parents or the officials that are running like these payment processors. But yeah, like Sully said, and Cuties hasn't been touched yet. That's the biggest cap right there. There are media sites that stream shit like that just because they're popular to the general public that are obviously predatory, but yet they're still around. Why? Ridiculous.